Hello y'all on YouTube, this is Rob with Rob's Nerdy Knives. Today I have a very special review, impressions of a knife that was given to me in the past around. This is a very, very cool, unique knife. It's actually a design by a fellow knife YouTuber and knife designer who's done a lot of different designs. And I've had the chance to talk to him a few times on some live streams and stuff, at least chat with him, maybe let's put it that way. We haven't done any live streams together, but kind of a neat little thing. This is the Caimano. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly. I did an unboxing and was very unsure about it because I didn't even know anything about it at the time. So that was like a completely fresh unboxing with no impressions whatsoever. But this is I'm going to assume it's going to be Caimano. And if I'm wrong, please correct me, because I really don't want to say it badly or whatever. So anyways, the designer of this particular knife, it does come through a particular a gentleman named Sharif Manganas. So Sharif has his own channel. Definitely check him out. I'll try to post a link in my description down below. But he also has an Instagram page, and I'll post that as well. And he also has a website where this knife can be pre-ordered. It's listed as pre-ordered right now. Not exactly sure when it will be available, but this is definitely going to be a hard user knife. And he's done a lot of knife designs apparently, which you probably already knew, but I knew he had done some, but I didn't know how many he had done. And he's also won some awards and stuff, so that's really, really cool. This is definitely going to be a user knife, and that's the intention of it. And when you feel this knife, you know it. I mean, this is not a little itty bitty knife. This is a big boy here. So we'll talk a little bit about this knife. We'll get into the details of the review. We'll do our typical things. So we talked about the knife name. And so in this case, the knife name is the Caimano. I'll say Caimano. The knife manufacturer, I believe this one is Kaiser. Am I correct? I don't actually know that. But anyways, it feels a little bit like Kaiser. I could be completely wrong. I don't know, but it's pretty good. This is S35 EN blade steel. Does it say on here anywhere? I don't know if I think this is a prototype. I'm pretty sure this is a prototype. So, as with anything, when I do a review or impressions on a prototype, it's always with a grain of salt because the final production knife could be different. So I always take everything with a grain of salt. And if I know about any changes, I'll try to mention it. And if I find out about it, I'll try to put it in the description if it's after the fact. But I can tell you it was a pretty good impression. I mean, it's not a knife I hate, right? I mean, is it out of my wheelhouse and my aesthetic? Yeah, it is. But does that mean I can't appreciate it and enjoy it and recommend things like this and tell you what's so good about it? Absolutely. I mean, I can absolutely do that, and I will. So the designer again is Sharif Manganas. Definitely a neat guy. The handle scales materials. This is what they call natural micarta. I'm so glad they call it natural micarta because sometimes it's brown, it's green. I don't know how they determine the colors because if this is natural, other people call it brown, fine. I'm happy with that. So this is brown, natural, whatever you want to call it, micarta. It does have titanium scales that's in there. I think that's really, really cool. It does have K ceramic ball bearings. So that's cool. It does have a captive pivot, which I think is really neat. It is what we call a bolster lock. So it is a subframe lock underneath a micarta scale. So this would be a bolstered lock, right? It does have a really nice cutaway for the subframe lock right here. So beautiful jimping on there, which is really, really nice. Great access to it. The action is beautiful. Part of that may be due to the weight, but it's not like a guillotine, but it does have a nice control drop shut, which I really enjoy for this particular design. I think that's nice. It has a big, nice, beautiful thumb hole. And where you call it a fuller hole, whatever you want to call it, but you can get your full finger, get a nice deployment, both left-handed and right-handed, so that works really, really well. Now, I will tell you on this, the detent is right there. All right, so you clear the detent right there, and then you're fine. But that does mean when you drop it, you've got to make sure you come all the way down, because if you drop it a little early, you get that double clutch, right? So if you get down there, you're fine. You don't get the double clutch, and I think that to me is is cool, right? There's no detent lash, all that good stuff. So it's got a beautiful flipper, wonderful, wonderful jimping on here, a little cutaway for that. So when you do push in, you can push into the flipper. You get a little extra pressure that goes in and ensures a nice, sturdy, actuation, a nice deployment of the blade. So that's nice. Beautiful jimping, like I said, up there. Fits really well. You can choke up really well. I've got large hands, so if you have extra large, double extra large hands, plenty of room there for sure. This mill clip is nice and rounded. Might be just a bit pokey on the edges there, and I don't know if the final production is going to address that, but it's not terrible. But something to keep in mind, especially if that if that bothers you. This is nicely chamfered here. There's no sharp edge, which is typical. Sometimes people forget that, and he took really good care of that. I like that a lot. It is nicely tuned right there. It's got a nice clip, titanium, nice flexibility. It is reversible, so lefties rejoice. This is right-hand tip up, but it can also be left-handed tip up. It's not seated or milled out for the clip, so it seats inside the scale, and it just sits as a screw, so it's nice and flush. So it looks, it looks like a couple extra screws, but the point of that is it allows quick reversibleness, which I think is really cool, right? So if you're lefty, you can absolutely use it on the left-hand side over here, especially with a bolster lock. To me, that's really nice, because bolster locks means I can get my hand right there, put the pressure on here. I'm not going to touch the frame lock and not be able to deploy it. So that's nice. It's got a nice full back spacer. It's got some great jimping, which again is great for some good traction if you're doing a push cut, right? Or if you're doing a pull cut, or something like that. You've got that jimping back here. That's always nice to have, especially if you're cutting into something really heavy like leather, plastic, cardboard. That's nice. Now, it's S35EN blade steel. It's a Tonto dual compound grind. So this is flat on the top. It's got a hollow down here. I don't know if you can see that. Beautifully hollowed grind down here. It comes down to a nice thin edge, but it's sharp on the top. A very aggressive tip for the Tonto. It's a really, stout, strong tip. It's got like a little fin on top, which is a nice swedge if you know the physics and engineering behind the engineering behind swedges, so you can turn the cut in through something heavy. So that's nice, and it's a very pronounced tip, which means, if you're poking into plastic bags, cases of water, mulch, fertilizer, dog food, cat food, cat litter, whatever you're opening up, Christmas presents, anniversary presents, birthday presents, whatever, this is going to do the job. It's going to actually be able to use it. And on his website, he does say that this is meant to be a user. So it feels absolutely sturdy as that. Now, it is not fully chamfered around the micarta, so micarta tends to be a little softer, and that's okay, but this would have been nice if this was just slightly chamfered. It's a little sharp on the edge. I think if this is your knife, it's very easy. Use a little Dremel. You can easily do that. It feels like the titanium is a little more rounded than the micarta. Again, this is a prototype, so I take that with a grain of salt. And I will say that I think maybe the production might be a little bit different. But if it is, then great. But that, to me, this seems fixable for what, a knife that I use. But it's not like sharp, like it's going to cut into you, but just realize it's going to be pretty stout. Now, you might be wearing gloves when you use this knife, so you'll be fine, right? And you could probably choke up here if you're doing like a really push hard cut and or you're going to do a pinch grip, right, to go in there. This little finger, the sharpening tool, not usable. You can't do the trigger kind of choke up. Don't do that. It's too close, and I think it's too dangerous, right? That's my recommendation. The flipper is right at center where the pivot is, but because you have that nice little cutaway, it's good jimping, and there's enough a good detent on there, it does deploy well. And it's not a front flipper, so I don't have to worry about tuning that. I always like that when you have those front flippers that you got to tune the detent for the front flipper, but this is primarily a flipper, or it's got a nice fuller hole, thumb hole that you can deploy with. So I think that's really cool. All right, so very, very cool. So that's the materials. It is, like I said, we talked about that. We talked about the materials, we talked about the opening, closing. Like I said, it's a nice cutaway. You can drop down there. The action's good. It closes really well. So that is all of the things. So let's do a little bit of measurements. All right, so let's see what this guy weighs. Comes in at 5.32 ounces. So, it's not a little knife, I will say. It's definitely got some weight to it, so 5.32 ounces is definitely, a little bit on the heavier side for some, but I think it's great. I don't mind it for the size of the knife. We're going to measure this in a second here. We'll measure the length, because you'll find out this is not a small knife. This is a big boy. This is a user knife. So those who have big hands, want big knives, you're going to be really happy about this. All right, so let's take a look. All right, so overall length on this knife, we're looking at about almost 8.5. That's going to be 8 3/4, maybe 8 and, you want to say 8 5/8, 8 5/8, somewhere around there. It's close. It's really close. Yeah, 8 5/8. Let's call it 8 5/8, right? So overall handle length from the very top and choke point to here, again, you're about 4 1/4 to 4 3/8, maybe. Yeah, 4 3/8. So you definitely got some good room in there. Like I said, you know, extra large hands definitely can get in there. Let's look at the overall blade length from the tip of the blade to the top of the handle. You are talking 3 3/4, right? So just keep that in mind, definitely over the 3 inches in case you're some places where that's important. From the tip to the bottom, cutting length, you're looking again 3 3/4. So definitely got to have a lot of cutting length there. So let's see, can we stand that up like that so we can measure the blade stock thickness? Let's do that. I'm just going to suspect this is 0.13 to 0.12, 0.13. So let's figure that out. All right, so it's 0.138, so 139 thousandths of an inch, or 0.139. So there we go. It's, you know, it's not a thin blade, but it's not an incredibly crazy thin like a Medford or something, but it's definitely going to be a workhorse type of knife. I like that. All right, so what is the category? I think the pre-order, now I can't tell you what it's going to be if you didn't get in on the pre-order. I think you still can. I think it's like around $275, okay? Excuse me, $255 for the micarta, natural micarta, $275 for the purple. They have a purple purple haze fat carbon. It looks really cool, by the way. That's really nice. I'm not a micarta fan. If I was going to get this, it'd definitely be the purple fat carbon. But man, it does look really, really nice. $275, I think it's a great deal. I mean, it says 35 EN, but it's titanium. I mean, all the way through, back spacers. So there is that. I like that. I like that a lot. This definitely puts it into the regular category. It's under $300. It's not high end. So, you know, very reasonable price for the materials, I think. I know some people feel like S35 VN might not be the great steel. You'd want M390, 20 CV. But S35 is a really good, useful tool. It's great for sharpening. It's got good toughness. There's a lot of positives about S35 VN blade steel. So, I mean, I think don't dismiss it. And he does talk about the HRC is going to be 60-62. So it seems like there's a real focus on the Rockwell hardness and the heat treat, so that's really good. That, you know, a lot of times steel is as good as the heat treat. I mean, that's why Spyderco's S30Vs, you know, S30V blade steels are just phenomenal and can outperform even other premium steels because they're heat treated so well. It has a lot to do with it, right? So I think there's something there to be said. So what is the purpose of this? Is it EDC? Absolutely 100% EDC. This is an EDC knife. I mean, I think the purpose of this knife is 100% EDC. You want to use it, you want to carry it, you want to make it a workhorse, right? Is it a hard use? I mean, as far as a bolstered subframe lock is, I mean, there's no lanyard hole, just keep that in mind, which I don't mind. I know some of you lanyard folks are probably disappointed, I'm sorry, but I don't mind it. I like that. But this is meant to be a hard use. It's a frame lock. While it still looks like a liner lock, but it's a sub-bolstered frame lock. So what happens is you get some pressure on here. You're going to keep that lock bar engaged. And you can notice we're about, what, good 50%? Yeah, about 50%. No blade rock. It's nice and solid in there. Easy to release, right? You get in there. But what happens is you get a point where you can squeeze this in. You lock the blade in place. You're not going to have that slide out. Sometimes liner locks can shift a little bit, especially if they're not fully engaged. So that can be a concern. But I don't think that's a concern here. You're going to keep that solidly engaged if you're hard using this knife. So for me, absolutely hard use. Now, does that mean you can go cut a tree down? Okay, so here's my thing. You know, you're going to cut a tree down, get an axe. If you need to go bushwhacking and you need to break a log with a knife, get a fixed blade. If you're in a dire situation, it's life or death, and this is the only knife you have, could it do it? I think it could. Is it intended purpose? No. Could you damage the knife? Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, if it's life or death, you could. I feel like this has a better success chance than some other liner locks and other EDC knives. It just feels very robust. So I will say that. Is it a collection piece? Well, every knife can be a collection piece. This definitely falls into around the price range where it could absolutely be a collection piece, but this is also a user piece. So, I mean, it could be a collection, user piece, could be a little bit of both. I think that's up to you as a user. I mean, it's definitely cool looking. It's not quite my
It's not quite my aesthetic, okay, just to be truth, but I don't hate it. That's the thing. I don't hate this design. And that's what I love about new and challenging design. Signs that before I might have dismissed completely. When I see something like this, what I'm seeing is a challenging design, something new, something different that'll allow me to, you know, maybe appreciate some sort of new approach at design. And this can lead to other knives. It can lead to other designs that I really, really enjoy. And that's what I dig. So I don't hate this design at all, right? It is not a design that I go, oh, that's just butt ugly. I mean, I've looked at some. I mean, I realize it's a great knife, but it's just ugly, so I don't like it at all. That's not the case here. Will I go out of my way to buy it? No, there's a few things that would keep me from it, but I think it's still an outstanding design. For the money, for what you get, for the size, for everything about it, man, we're going to talk about that. You know, we'll get into that because, you know, we're going to get ergonomics and feel and overall final thoughts. So we'll get in there. It's going to be good. So the design, I think the design is great. I think the design it's intentional and it does what it's meant to do and it executes it well. The jimping, the thumb hole, you know, everything on here, or fuller hole, whatever you want to call it. The clip is nice. There's no lanyard hole, which I like. Sorry, I know you guys who like them. Everything to me feels really good. It's solid in the hand. It's nice and gripped. There is this is chamfering officially, right? But you know, I like to see a really sharp edge like that not be as aggressive. So that's the only thing. Again, it's a prototype. So, you know, I'm going to take it with a grain of salt until I see the final product. The final product might be very different, but I like it. I think even as is, it's still really cool, okay? Opening and closing is phenomenal. The flipper works really well. The thumb fuller hole works fantastic. You know, both reverse flicking here. Obviously, oops, get your finger in there. It's nice and easy to work. And your thumb here works really well, right? Just make sure you clear that detent ball. I wish that was not as high or as low. So that's my only gripe. You know, I will say, you know, my gripes really, everything about this knife I like. My gripes are going to be some of the sharper edges right here, a little corners here, right? Some of the sharper edges around here, I feel like that's really a big concern for me, right? Those are the things that are more my gripes, if you will say. And the detent, when it disengages and you get that detent lash, right? Your double detent or I don't like to have a double clutch, sorry. I don't like to have a second clutch that's that far. I like to see the clutch being overcome right there, right? That's my personal preference, but I get sometimes in the design, you know, where the detent ball is and when it disengages. So it has to, this is when it finally clears that edge. And in order to clear that edge, you know, part of this knife has to be designed a little differently. And there's a good handle to blade ratio is really trying to use it. Now, yeah, could you get another 1/4 inch or cut up a little bit? Yeah, you could. I mean, but I think it's pretty good. It's safe in there, so you're not going to cut yourself. Still nice and dead centered. You can see that this edge is a little bit long. This edge is shorter and this edge is longer, and that's what causes it to look like it's off center. So if you look at the very tip, you feel like it's not. But if you look at right here, you feel like, yeah, it's definitely dead nut center, right? So that's a matter of grind. You can reprofile a blade like that. It might be a little bit of work, but definitely would be worth something. If it was my knife, I would do. All right, fidget factor on a scale of 1 to 10. So it has really nice flipper. The flipper works really well. The flipper it could be a push button. It can be a light switch. I feel like it's a little bit of both together, right? So that's really nice. The fuller hole works really well. That's really nice. The thumb hole here works really well. Can you slow roll it? Now, bigger hands probably could slow roll it a little easier. I can absolutely slow roll it. And I can slow roll it, you know, both left-handed and right-handed. So it works well in that regard. So the flipper, the thumb hole, all that stuff, there's no bonus, but I mean, it's a fairly robust, large, fuller thumb hole. So I'm going to give this fidget factor. So out of 10, how much fidget ability do you have here? I'm going to give it a 5. I want to do a 4.5, 5. I'm gonna round it up to a 5. It's really more like a 4.5, all right? So I'm gonna give it a 5, kind of round it. That's a little bonus there for them. But it does it well, I would say. So a 5 for fidget factor. Now, fidgety goodness, that means out of that 5, how well can you fidget this knife? So only because of the double clutch that occurs a lot. You kind of miss the drop action. That's part of the Fidget, right? You want to be able to close it and then close it. So if I close it up here and I don't get that down, then sometimes you have to shake it, or you do that. Let's say you catch it up here, you might lock it again. So that takes a little bit away from 100% for sure. But I will tell you, the drop is nice. Once you pass there, drop is really nice. The flipping is really nice. The reverse flick is really nice. So it's going to be a good 90. It's going to get an A minus, a solid A minus for those two reasons. And that's kind of where I stand. And that's not me dogging on it or anything, but that's just where I stand on that. All right. So that being said, if you may disagree with me, that's fine. Let me know. Overall final thoughts. Is it recommended? Well, I will tell you, it's outside of my wheelhouse. It's outside of the normal size of a knife I like to buy. It's really big. But I tell you, yeah, I would recommend this knife. There's a lot that I really like. There's a look that I don't hate the look. It's not like I'm going to go buy it, but this is really cool. I don't know. I dig this little thing here. I dig this swedge. It's kind of got like a little clip. It's almost like a rhinoceros horn. It makes you feel aggressive, right? But it's like very functional. It looks cool, but it's functional cool, right? So if you're doing with that Tonto blade and you're doing some work, it's intentional. It'll work, right? If you're up here and you're gripping or you're trying to do a push, I mean, that really is intentional. So I like that. Everything to me feels functional, even the swedge. And I like swedges because it does allow you to navigate a cut. I like the bolster subframe lock. That's just really nice. That's a great touch. I like the titanium clip. It's very functional. I like the back spacer. It's an artistic, but very functional for jimping, right? This serves as jimping. So it's very tactical in the sense of you can hold a knife and use it for the job you need to do. If you need to cut some wood, some leather, some plastic, some cardboard, whatever you're trying to get into, you're working in the yard, working in the garage, this is going to be a great tool. Absolutely a great tool, right? It does have a strong detent. I will tell you that. It's certainly a strong detent. If it's my own personal knife, I might lighten that just a touch, a hair, just because it's really aggressive. But some people are going to love this. Is going to be like a Kevin from Lefty EDC. He's going to say this is like just money detent. He's going to love this. Money detent. And I get that. For me, it's a little tough. It's a little on the stronger side of detent. He might call this okay average detent. I would call it a little stronger detent. So basically, anytime Kevin says it's okay detent, it's going to be a little stronger for me. If he says it's great detent, it's going to be really strong for me, right? If he says it's a little weak detent, but okay, then it's probably going to be perfect detent for me. So that's, I get that. That's all relative to what he likes and what I like. And, everyone's different. You buy the knife you like and you tune it and have it the way you want it to be. And that's up to you, right? So overall thoughts, it is recommended. Absolutely. I think it's a pretty cool knife. It's definitely worth checking out. I think you should, maybe if the size and aesthetics really appeal to you and everything I talked about you're okay with, I think it's a great pre-order. Maybe get in on it. Check out the description down below. The Caimana's, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right again. Am I saying it right? Let me look at the spelling here because I just feel like, no, Caimano. It's hard for me to pronounce. I'll have it definitely in the title, obviously in the description, but the Caimano, it's just pretty cool. So there you go. If you disagree with me, if you found this interesting, or you have questions about it, just let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from you. Love to hear your thoughts on this. I always enjoy those conversations. I really do. Also, if you found this content fun, interesting, worthwhile, entertaining, or informative, would you please consider hitting the like button down below? And if you've already hit that like button, would you please consider hitting the subscribe button? Because subscribing and liking the videos really helps out the channel. Allows the channel to grow, allows me to produce more content, do more things, ultimately do more things for you guys. So thank you. Thank you to every one of you guys. And if you haven't already, maybe hit that notification button so you can be notified of future content. And also to all my channel members, subscribers, thank you to you all, every one of you guys. You're awesome. To all my channel members, thank you for supporting the channel. Those of you who've been supportive for a long time, those who are just recently supporting, I want to thank each and every one of you. Thank you. And if you're interested, maybe becoming a channel member, there is a link down below for that. I would love to have you and appreciate you on the journey that we're doing here. And any support for the channel is always appreciated because that really allows me to do a lot of things that otherwise I don't think I would be able to do. So thank you. I appreciate you guys. All right. If you haven't finally, maybe check me out over on Instagram at robs_nerdy_knives. Again, that's on Instagram at robs_nerdy_knives. Thanks so much for watching today. Have a great day and a great week. Bye.